Hello there. Around here the weather is starting to cool down after a hot summer. We're getting some cooler nights, although the days are still warm. Maybe it's going the other way at your place. What I considered a hot summer here in our coastal New Zealand town had a maximum temperature of 31 degrees Celsius, which is only 88 degrees Fahrenheit. But even those of us who live in milder climates should be thinking about how our chickens handle the heat, because chickens don't handle heat very well. Let's talk about temperature and chickens, what is ideal, what the chickens can do, and what you can do to make them as comfortable as possible. A healthy adult hen has a body temperature of about 41 degrees Celsius, 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Roosters typically have a slightly higher body temperature than hens. Broiler chickens have a higher temperature again, sometimes as much as 44 degrees Celsius. This is because they eat so much and have a higher metabolic heat production rate. Baby chicks typically have a slightly lower body temperature on hatching, about 39 degrees Celsius. Their body temperature gradually rises to the normal adult level over their first few weeks of life. The ambient temperature chickens most prefer is between 15 and 24 degrees Celsius, 60 and 75 Fahrenheit. Within this range, her body is working efficiently. She's not needing to create extra physiological heat to keep warm, and she's not working to keep cool. Her environment is just right. This temperature range is called the thermoneutral zone. If the ambient temperature is cooler than ideal, chickens have several ways of keeping warm. But today, let's just talk about when the temperature is too hot. Some chickens just handle the heat better than others. Chickens that have big combs and wattles lose heat by radiation from the exposed skin of their combs and wattles. Out in the hot sun, chickens with white or pale feathers reflect the sun's radiant heat better. Dark feathers absorb more radiant heat. Chickens with a thick, fluffy feather overcoat are at a disadvantage, as are chickens with feathers on their legs and feet. In hot weather, feathers trap heat next to her body, so if it's hot, it's better to have fewer and less fluffy feathers. The naked neck chicken breed takes this further, with no feathers at all from the top of the neck down to below the crop, and only about half the usual number of feathers over the rest of their body. The origin of naked neck chicken breeds is unclear, but they probably arose in hot climate countries such as Asia, Egypt, and South America. They carry an incomplete dominant gene called NA on chromosome 3. They handle heat exceptionally well, although they can suffer from sunburn or frostbite. There are also chickens that have no feathers at all. These chickens, with a double dose of the scaleless gene, were first described in the 1950s. Around 25 years ago, this naturally occurring mutation was crossed with the naked neck chicken to produce a featherless chicken that they hoped would be commercially suitable for hot climates, as well as being easy to prepare as chicken meat. Featherless chickens thrive in hot temperatures, and since they don't have the high body temperature of other broiler breeds, they make better meat birds when raised in hot temperatures. But they are subject to sunburn, as well as more susceptible to parasites and mosquito bites. And since they can't use their feathers for temperature control, it turns out that they do need a very stable, controlled temperature environment, so they haven't caught on commercially. Ordinary chickens with ordinary feathers can do things to keep themselves as comfortable as possible. She can lose some heat by convection. Since her legs and feet are not covered in feathers, she's most likely to stand, allowing her hot skin to dissipate some heat. You'll probably notice that she holds her wings away from her body. Even a well-feathered chicken has less feather coverage under her wings, so she's exposing her hot skin to the air. As long as the air temperature is cooler than her body temperature, she can lose some heat this way. But note that chickens don't have sweat glands, so this heat loss is just by way of convection and not as efficient as the evaporation that cools us when we sweat. She can lose heat by evaporation by panting, puffing out her hot, moist breath. She can also do a thing called Gular flutter, vibrating her throat muscles to draw air deep into her buccal cavity, where she can lose heat by both conduction and by evaporation. Panting takes muscular activity, but Gular flutter takes less energy and doesn't create as much extra heat. If she can find something cool to sit on, like damp earth, she will be able to lose heat by conduction. Dust bathing in cool earth or sand is a particular favourite, as the deeper layers stay cooler than the surface temperature. She'll move away from other chickens, not cuddling together like they would if they are cold. And if she can, she'll move to the shade, away from the direct radiant heat of the sun. But overall, she'll move less, because movement and activity creates more metabolic heat. And she eats less, partly because foraging for food is active and energetic, and also because digestion itself creates metabolic heat. But she needs to drink more to remain hydrated when she's losing water by panting. You might notice that her droppings become quite wet because of the extra water she's drinking. Eating less might cause her eggshells to become thinner, because eating less food means getting less calcium, and also because panting disturbs the calcium carbonate balance. Or she might stop laying altogether, because egg production takes energy and creates metabolic heat. All this works reasonably well as long as the temperatures are reasonable. Up to about 25 degrees Celsius, she's perfectly happy. Between 25 and 30, she feels the heat, but using these behaviour modifications, she copes okay. Above about 30 degrees Celsius, 86 Fahrenheit, heat stress begins to set in. How badly she's affected depends on several things. A laying hen is affected worse than a chicken who's not laying. Chickens that are adapted to hot temperatures pant less readily and are less affected than chickens who aren't used to the heat. If the humidity is also high, evaporation is less effective and she fares worse. As temperatures climb, heat loss by convection becomes ineffective because the ambient temperature is close to her body temperature. She may become dehydrated because of losing so much water by panting and excretion. She loses electrolytes too, and ultimately her kidneys may start to fail. Her core body temperature may rise out of control to lethal levels. You want to make sure it doesn't come to this. So what can you do? Make sure she has somewhere she can go, away from the direct radiant heat of the sun. If you've ever walked barefoot across hot concrete or a sandy beach on a hot summer's day, you'll remember how quickly that becomes painful. Just providing shade can lower the temperature of the ground surface hugely. There's plenty of information about the difference shade can make in urban environments. Specifically for chickens, the member of the Backyard Chickens Forum posted some information that I have number crunched for you. You can see that the temperature of the ground in the sun can be much higher than the ambient air temperature. But in the shade, the ground temperature is close to, sometimes even lower, than the ambient air temperature. My chicken range gets some shade from deciduous fruit trees, as well as a long shadow from the high fence on the side facing the sun. Over my enclosed run, I have shade cloth. I bought it in bulk from the garden store, 2 meters wide, so I sewed it together along the roof line. Because it's permeable, it doesn't catch the wind as much as a solid roof would, so it needs less solid construction to hold it down. In some places you might find this called privacy screen. Material with a higher sun filtering rating provides more shade and therefore cooler ground, but just use whatever you have, whatever suits your situation to get some shade. If they have a specified dust bath, put that in the shade too. Mine just choose their own spot, depending on the weather. Chickens always need fresh, clean, cool water, and this is vital in hot weather. Heat-stressed chickens need to drink 2 to 4 times the amount of water as usual. Their water needs to be clean, or they will be less inclined to drink it. You can add extras like electrolytes to replace those they've lost, sodium bicarbonate to help her balance her calcium carbonate, and vitamins, especially vitamin C, which has been shown to help with heat stress. But beware that they will drink less if they don't like the taste. So if you know your climate gets hot, get your chickens used to additives in their water early on in the summer, and always give them an option of fresh, clean water. Their water should be cool because that will help them with heat dispersal. So put their drinking water in the shade too, not out in the hot sun. Make sure that water is somewhere handy. Your chickens shouldn't need to make a major trek just to get to water. They want to conserve their energy and not create more metabolic heat. So put that cool water out where the chickens are. This watering station is an extra that I only use in summer. It's under a tree and in the shadow of the fence. It's not so convenient for me because it doesn't have an automatic filling system, but that means I have to fill it frequently with fresh, cool water. An easy way to keep the water cool is to add a big chunk of ice. Of course it melts, but it does keep the water cool for a few hours over the hottest part of the day. They won't want to eat much during the hottest part of the day, so make sure they have feed available and accessible in early morning and late evening. You can encourage them to keep up their fluids by providing juicy treats like cucumber. I always have a few more in my garden than we want to eat, so my chickens get the excess. In addition to the liquid, the seeds have good protein, which is something to consider when feeding cool treats. When your chickens are eating less than normal, you need to make sure that everything they do eat is very nutritious. Make sure the house where they sleep is not stifling hot. Your chicken house needs shade too. It needs great ventilation, so even if it heats up a bit during the day, it cools quickly in the evening. Make sure it's not crowded. Everyone has plenty of space on the perch. The ancestors of chickens were jungle fowl who lived in tropical forests where it's warm between 25 and 30 degrees all year round, but with plenty of shade and cool streams. Jungle fowl are well adapted to these conditions. How well your chickens cope with hot weather depends on a lot of things, including how hot it gets and for how long, the humidity, what breed and colour your chickens are, and how acclimatised they are to the high temperatures, and also on what you do to help, mainly by providing shade, plenty of fresh cool water nearby, and comfortable sleeping arrangements. Whenever you start to feel the heat, check on your chickens. Keep an eye out for signs of heat stress. Are you getting fewer eggs than usual? Are they looking a bit tired and sad? Do you see them panting or worse? Think about what you can do to help them out so they can cope better. I'm sure they'll thank you for it. And thanks for watching. Bye for now. See you next time.